Hey everyone, how you doing? It's Liam from PushSquare here, and thanks to a recently released firmware update, Sony has finally given PlayStation 5 owners the ability to upgrade the system's internal storage, allowing you to install and play more games on your next-gen console. I'm here today to tell you how to install an internal SSD and expand your storage. This may seem a little bit more complicated than it was on previous Sony systems, but don't worry. The process is actually very easy. There are timecodes in the description of this video, so feel free to jump around to the bit you need, but before we crack open our PlayStation 5s, let's go over everything you'll need. To increase your internal storage, you're going to need the following bits and bobs. You'll need a standard crosshair screwdriver, a compatible PCIe 4.0 M.2 NVMe solid state drive with a read speed of up to 5,500 megabytes a second or faster. For more information about which drives are compatible with the PlayStation 5, including how much they cost, make sure to check out our website. I'll pop a link in the description of this video so you can have a look. For this video, I'm using the Western Digital Black SN850 1TB model that comes without a heatsink installed, because if it's good enough for Mark Cerny, it's good enough for me. I mean, he designed the console, so you hope he knows what he's talking about. If you've bought an SSD without a heatsink, which I would recommend as it makes the drives considerably cheaper, make sure you have a heatsink that fits. The entire drive, including the heatsink, cannot exceed a height of 2.25mm beneath the SSD and 8mm above the SSD, otherwise it won't fit. Again, check out the article that's linked in the description for some recommended heatsinks. And that's it. If you bought an SSD with a heatsink pre-installed, feel free to skip this section, but if you bought both separately, here's how to attach it. Simply place the double-sided thermal sticker either onto the drive directly or onto the bottom of the heatsink before sticking them both together. Make sure that you stick the heatsink to the correct side of the drive based on whether or not it sits below the drive or above it. In my instance, I had to attach the heatsink to the top of the drive. To make sure I put it on correctly, I checked how the drive connected to the PlayStation 5 before attaching the heatsink. I won't lie, I got it wrong the first time around, but it doesn't make too much of a difference. You can simply peel off the heatsink and reattach it to the other side of the drive. Then you want to grab these tiny little rubber bands and attach them to both sides of the SSD. Simply pull them over both ends until they're securely in place. This bit is a touch fiddly, but it should help keep both the drive and the heatsink attached once it's in the PlayStation 5. Once you're done, it's time to install the drive. Alright, it's time to install the SSD into our PlayStation 5. So first things first, you want to turn the system completely upside down so the PlayStation logo side is facing the floor. Like so. Next, you want to turn the system away from you, as this makes it much easier to remove the back panel. So it's faced like this. So you have the power port and the HDMI facing you. Okay, next step is taking the back panel off. Now this bit feels really strange the first time you do this. It does feel a little bit like you're going to break it, but believe me, you won't. Take your left hand, put it in the top left here. Take your right hand, put it here. You want to lift your right hand up just gently and then slide the panel to the left. There we go. It feels weird, but that does remove the back panel and exposes the internals of the system. Turn this around because the bit you want is this bit at the front. So all you need is your crosshair screwdriver, and you can just take the screw out to expose the slot. Let's just take that out. Fun little Easter egg here, if the camera decides to focus, the screw actually has the PlayStation symbols engraved on it, which is a really nice little touch. Once you've removed the screw, and make sure you put it in a safe place so you don't lose it, get your fingernail underneath this panel and pop it right off, exposing the bay where we'll be installing our SSD. Once the bay is exposed, you'll notice that there is a little screw here that you're going to want to unscrew before you insert the SSD. Again, just use your crosshair screwdriver. There we are. That comes right out. There's also a small nut that comes out, so make sure you grab that too. Now, it's time to grab your SSD. Make sure the heatsink is facing up, it's on the top of the SSD, and that the connector is facing towards this side of the console, away from this fan at the back and towards this metal bit to the right. Then simply line it up with the connecting port. You'll feel it slot in slightly, and then give it a nice good push until you hear it click, like that. At this point, your SSD will be a little bit raised, looks a bit comical. Not to worry, that's what the screw is for that you just took out before you installed the drive. You may have noticed when you first exposed the bay that it contained different holes. These holes are there to secure different sizes of SSD. So as you can see here, the hole in the SSD lines up with the hole in the bay. All I need to do is get the screw, get the nut, and re-secure them into this new hole. And once that's nice and tight, like so, just make sure that's nice and secure, the SSD is installed in the PlayStation 5. Once your SSD is securely installed, it's time to pop the panel back on. Should just slide on. Grab the screw with the PlayStation symbols on it and reattach the panel by screwing it back in. Perfect. And for the last step, grab the panel, make sure the thin bit is in the bottom left, line it back up with the system, and then push it down and slide it to the left until you hear the click. And that is how you install an SSD into the PlayStation 5. Now it's time to power this thing up and start using the SSD. Once you've plugged your PlayStation 5 back in, you'll be met with a screen informing you that before you can start using the drive, it needs to be formatted. Simply select the Format M.2 SSD button and then wait a few seconds for the PlayStation 5 to do its thing. You'll then be told how fast your M.2 SSD drive can read data, which will impact how comparable the drive is to the console's default storage. Here you can see that the Western Digital drive that I used is well above the recommended 5,500 megabyte a second read speed. And after that, you're ready to go. If you go into the settings menu and then go into the storage section, you'll be able to see information about your newly installed drive. While you're on this menu, you can also navigate down to the installation location section and choose where you want PlayStation 5 games and apps and PlayStation 4 games and apps to be installed by default moving forward. So if you want everything installed on that brand new SSD, you can change that here. And finally, if you want to move over any existing games and apps from your console storage to your new SSD, you can do so by navigating to console storage and selecting games and apps, finding whatever you want to move over to the SSD before choosing select items to move and moving it to the SSD. I moved Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart from the console storage to my SSD. It was 30 gigs in total and it took about 30 seconds to move it to the new drive. Once it was all moved over, I booted it up and was very pleased to see that there were no meaningful differences in terms of loading times compared to when it was running off the internal console storage. In fact, to my eye, I didn't do any formal testing, it seemed to be as fast as it was before. So there we have it. At this point, you have your brand new SSD installed and ready to go. Please do let me know in the comments of this video if this guide was helpful, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider giving it a like and make sure to subscribe to Push Square for everything PlayStation. Thank you, as always, for watching.